It's time for another Elsie's Little Pickles, the pickle pod for the people. That's what we're here to do. And with that being said, we do have, obviously, we've got news, but we want to, try to continuously follow the Halloween theme because, again, this is the time of year that both you and I love most, the month of October. We love Halloween, so we will get into that. However, there have been so many things that have gone on in the political world, and I know you've got some of those marked as news stories, but just off...
I didn't mark a whole lot in news, I was too busy dancing.
And why were you dancing? Was it
I'm sorry.
Were you listening to Trump's
playing some Ave Maria?
You were on. You got the Trump playlist is what you got.
Well,
hard not to.
I incorporated his playlist, which, let's be honest, it's 3 songs that he just kept replaying.
YMCA, Ave Maria, and what was the third?
There was also Nothing Compares to You by Sinead O'Connor.
Yeah, because apparently that estate doesn't have the ability to put a cease and desist on him using it. Because they would.
We should hire, apparently, Trump's DJ Justin, I think is his name.
Oh, good old DJ Justin, because you go with DJ Justin, you can't even say that fast.
It's like Josh or Justin, something like that.
Because Chad was booked.
DJ Joshy Justin. Rug.
So I've noticed this at almost every event that I've seen, specifically with the Democrats, whether it's Tim on stage or Kamala on stage. Within the first 10, 15 minutes, it seems that somebody passes out and they have to stop what they're doing and make mention that we need paramedics, which was cute the first 2 times, but now is wearing thin. Now, it appears that Trump is, in many ways, just trying to do the things that Kamala does. Because first and foremost, what he did was he called that out. And I've never seen it, not saying it never happened, I'm saying I've never seen it happen, that Trump would stop what was going on in order for the attention to be placed on somebody who was injured rather than himself. I've never seen him offer the attention to somebody else like that. Much less for, 40 minutes that he danced?
Yes. I think it's technically 39 minutes, but...
All right.
And on the teleprompter, because Trump doesn't use teleprompters, bullshit, he does. On the teleprompter, it actually said, please answer 2 more questions, then we can play music. There's a screenshot of it. And
unbelievable. And all right, we'll get into a few of these other stunts, but it does seem, I don't know about you, but it does seem to me that he's trying to mimic.
Sorry, I was dancing.
I know, I'm watching you dance, and it's disturbing me.
Standing and twisting.
For 39 minutes. 39 minutes. Yes. He stood there and just jacked off giraffes and wiggled and wobbled and
something I've noticed is, let's face it, you would think that I'd be a big fan because, he's a dude dressed up like a makeup of a pumpkin who looks like he's jerking off 2 ghosts.
Mm-hmm. You would think that this would be your guy. He's ticking all your boxes.
Well, he's taking all my dance moves.
Yeah.
I still have the happy hamster dance, damn it.
Yes. If nothing else, you still have the happy hamster.
I don't mean to derail the conversation, but
every time you say that, you end up derailing it.
The other day, I watched Top Gun. It's a Top Gun marathon. I hadn't seen the new one. But something I noticed in the 80s Top Gun, the infamous volleyball scene.
Yeah.
Their shirts off, oiled up, doing their little poses. You ever listen to the song playing in the background by Kenny Loggins?
Which one is it?
It's a
Danger Zone, isn't it?
No. It's Playing with the Boys.
Oh, God.
And some of the lyrics, I noticed it while the movie was going. I'm like, they really just say that? And yeah, they did. One of the lyrics is playing with the boys, playing with the boys. After chasing sunsets, one of life's simple joys is the boys.
Oh, well.
It seems a little like,
Hmm.
I don't see myself hanging out with my buddies blasting that song.
No.
Playing with them.
No, I don't see that either.
It's something I noticed.
I don't see you doing that song with a group of your friends, shirts off, oiled up.
I'd get my ass kicked.
And quite frankly, you would deserve it, I think.
I would have to just stand there.
That's kind of an energy that doesn't fall into most male circles. And the ones that it does, they're the ones that are always freaking out about, dude's gay. Yeah, well, what are we saying about ourselves there, buddy? But yeah.
It just was an awkward, like, what am I watching?
I mean, you want to talk about taking the choo-choo train totally off the tracks. You successfully just did that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's what I get paid for.
Well done. Well done. All right, back to...
So anyway, we're talking about...
back to Trump's antics. What I'm noticing...
5 minutes later.
Yeah. What I'm noticing, though, is with his behaviors, not only is he falling asleep more, okay, I think it was at the Detroit conference where it was supposed to be a Q&A. It might have been even at that same, I'm not sure. Where was the dance off? Where did that happen?
That was Detroit.
It was Detroit.
Well, technically, I think it was like
Grand Rapids.
No,
right?
no, I was right. It was Detroit. It was at Huntington. No, the Huntington place was where the mic cut out.
Oh, and that drove him nuts.
Yeah. Which I have it on some authority that there is a mute button underneath the podium that you step on in between speakers. So some people are saying he was hitting that because he's a moron. And because it would cut out all of the mics. The spares standing off to the side.
That makes sense.
Cut all of that out.
That would make sense.
And
they would do
he
that.
was just too stupid to understand not to step on the little black button.
And I'm guessing you got that from our audio expert and video expert, Eric?
Actually, no.
Really?
It is my experience in public address systems.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you used to set those up, too. Yeah.
So, Mr. Clown Shoes.
So basically, what was interesting about that is that he just stood up there. Instead of coming back down and going back into,
Really, what is the most interesting in that situation is that nobody came up to fix anything.
No, he just...
Which means they don't have an audio video specialist.
At least not
whether
on
his staff or in the building. They were just like, oh, fuck you, dude. You're not paying us anyway.
I would be surprised if it was a situation of him bringing his own audio people. That would be shocking to me. I've
seen Stevie Ray Vaughan break guitar string, and his roadie comes rushing out and switches the guitars
and never misses
between guitar licks.
Yeah, and never misses a note.
Audio guys who run out to switch out mics really quick in the middle of a big performance. Yeah, nothing like that. Because he's not going to pay anyone.
Well, I mean, that would be my question is, I would assume that venue was a union venue. Right. And my I guess my question on that would be, based on what I know, okay, because I did all that time with Caesars when I was doing stand-up in Tahoe. And I became very good friends with all the backstage workers. I don't know that he could get away with not having with them there. So then it becomes a question of they just didn't want to help. Because I think, at least based on what I understood from those guys, a light switch doesn't get turned on unless a union member does it.
Correct.
And I
DJ
think
Justin dropped the mic.
So we've seen him for 39 minutes stop that was supposed to be more of a town hall, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So he stopped that for 39 minutes, decides that's it. We're just going to have a little dance fest. Mm-hmm. His comments prior to that in Detroit with the Detroit Economic Group, where he basically said, if Kamala,
you want your country to look like Detroit?
Yeah. Do you want your country to look like Detroit? He says that, and mind you, Detroit's looking pretty fucking good nowadays.
Yeah, I would not mind a Coney Island every couple of miles throughout the country, if you ask me.
Yeah, and
that would be nice.
But the fact of the matter is that, you know, I think we've been voted the best river walk now for like 2 or 3 years in a row.
I wouldn't mind either some Detroit style pizza everywhere.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
It's all about food with you, isn't it? just leave a trail of restaurants across the country.
What are you trying to say?
That you can stop at. Then he had, what was the other one that he had prior to? This just recently happened. I think it might have just happened today. Arnold Palmer's dick became an issue for him?
Yeah, that was yesterday, I do believe. He talked about the ghost of Arnold Palmer, easy for me to say, and how he talked for like 10, 15 minutes about golf and all these golf places that he's built and had famous people, and how he's named, what did he name, sandwiches after them or something? I don't know. But how people would talk about showering with Arnold Palmer, because obviously as a golfer, you got to shower with other men, just like in football or baseball, like it's some kind of contact sport.
I never understood that. I never understood. Look, I don't have a problem doing it, whatever, but I never understood why that was the way that we did it. Give each person a little bit of privacy, for fuck's sake. It's not like you're adding that much cost to the shower install. I mean, come on. We need, it's bad enough. It's bad enough if you go to like a stadium and they still have the trough piss fucking urinals, right? Yeah. Just a piece of folded stainless steel with a little bit of a water supply and a little bit of drainage. And I remember, like, as a kid, Dad would take us to U of M. Tiger Stadium
was big with the
original. Yeah, the original one.
Trough. And seriously, he had to stop me. I was a child. I was probably like 5, 6. And I was going to stick my hand in it because I thought that's where you washed your hands.
Exactly.
Like, nope.
But how shitty is that? Because to make that man height for a kid, I mean, that's just eyeball height. So you got nothing but splashback.
I remember Dad having to lift me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. I remember Dad having to lift me to make it in there. Yeah. But that's my point is that really adding so much more expense to have a little bit of dignity for the people who have to use the restroom? Oh, for fuck's sake. It's just a big trough. Piss in that.
There's a Detroit area broadcaster, now podcaster, who talked about, when he was in high school, one of the swim classes was all boys and they had to do it naked.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great when the water's cold.
Be a little awkward.
That'd be a lot awkward. It'd be a lot awkward. Are you kidding me? Especially if you have to do the backstroke. You look like a little mini shark.
Ba-ding, 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 ba-ding. Now we're gonna try some synchronized swimming. No. No, we are not.
We are not. How about water polo? Fuck no. Fuck you.
Some water volleyball.
Shit. No. All right, back to Trump. So he is, he has.
You think in water polo, had made a little helmet for the, just like a little tiny football helmet.
Oh, God damn me. Now I have that image welcome. In my head.
You're welcome, everybody.
So apparently he's been also canceling events.
Yes.
So
and interviews
and debates. Like he won't do
One
it.
of the excuses given was exhaustion.
Yeah.
I'm so tired.
He's very tired.
Oh,
But then
all that jerking off ghosts got me tired.
getting back to how he constantly wants to, I don't know, mimic. He's not necessarily mimicking her, but it's like he's trying to mimic and mock her at the same time. So
He's trying to get that Mick street cred.
Right. so he ends up at a McDonald's.
In truth, he's just after a good bucket of special sauce so he can add it to stuff.
He ended up at McDonald's working the drive-thru and the fryer. And
well, is that a surprise?
Now, I don't know if this is true or not. What I do know is there's pictures of a sign that says that this particular McDonald's will be closed.
Yeah.
And that they are doing a staged event. Okay. So there's that. But on top of that, this idea that he's going to work the fry machine, which is exactly what Kamala did. And then she went from that to working cashier. Well, he went to the drive-through window, essentially cashier, and everyone that he handed a bag to got theirs for free. I saw one. He was like, I'm going to buy that for you. And then apparently did not pay.
I'm going to buy that for you. Oh, he didn't pay.
No, apparently he did not pay. Now, again, I can't verify this. This is all, Twix. So I don't, Twix has gotten very, very pro-Trump lately.
Yes.
Ever since Elon came on board. So
Elon, who is trying to bribe people in Pennsylvania.
Right.
If you sign up, petition to vote for Trump, you get $100. If you bring a friend, you get 47. Otherwise known as a crime in the United States of America.
That does seem to be a bit fishy, but I think that the way that they did it, where it was like, you're just pledging. No, it was to register to vote, wasn't it?
No, it's to sign a petition stating that you will vote for Trump.
No, I mean, you can sign anything. It's not a legal binding document over $100 and not let them track me down.
But still.
Let them track me down. I'll take a fucking $100 worth of Elon's money to say, yeah, I'm going to vote for Trump. Sure. Okay. Let me go have a nice fucking dinner. Or a nice bottle of scotch, right?
That is a crime. I can't remember if it's a crime in the US or if it's just Pennsylvania.
Well, regardless, I would be shocked if Elon didn't have his lawyers figure that shit out before he staged the event. So I don't worry about it.
He doesn't really always think forward.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. But again, it's one of those things where it's like when you're going to do something like that, you would be smart to double check with your lawyers. At least
I
cursory.
Also saw a story about citizen advocates being trained to disrupt the 2024 elections in the name of election integrity.
Oh, I don't doubt that, but go ahead with the story.
Just a reporter was invited, and basically a warehouse outfitted with pictures of like MTG stuff, people like that. There were 30 people in there, being taught by former tax law professor David Clements from New York. And he was teaching a group of people how to disrupt and make a little bit of hubbaloo.
No, the old hubbaloo.
Imagine the old hubbaloo.
The hubbaloo. I like it.
But these meetings have been held at churches, libraries, civic organizations, to try to get more people, I should say, to come out and like, oh, that was a fake election. Crap like that.
So basically 2020 all over again, except this time they're organized. They're trying to organize.
Yeah, speaking of that, Trump mentioned that he wants everyone to get out and vote on January 5th.
5th, yes.
My question.
Well, go ahead with yours.
Do you think he might have let slip that they're thinking ahead to January 5th? Because apparently it's going to take place again on January 6th. The verifying the count.
Yeah, I think that's just standard. It's always January 6th, unless it falls on a weekend or something like that. And even then, it may be on January 6th. I'll be honest with you, I'm not quite sure on how the law
my big question,
how that procedure works. But as far as I knew, it's always certify on the 6th. And the reason is because they have to have that many days in between that and an inauguration. So that I would assume is come hell or high water, that happens on the 6th as a ceremonial event. Am I right? I don't know. I'm sure we'll get email telling me I'm fucking wrong or some social media post telling me I'm wrong. And if I am, great.
Let me get Roger Stone on the phone here.
Yeah, please do. I guess that kind of brings me to this question, though, is so for me, I saw that and I went, it was just a slip. You know what I mean? Like that everyone's always talking to him
Alzheimer's.
It could be that. It could be just, just a natural slip. All right. I'm willing to give people the benefit of the doubt, even when it's Trump, that you might misspeak. All right. So my question then becomes, do you think that it's more likely that he misspoke? Which I do. I think it's more likely he did. And you'd never expect me to defend him, but I think it's more likely that he just conflated the two things and misspoke. Or do you honestly think that is a Freudian slip of what's yet to come?
Knowing his past, I would say a Freudian slip.
So you're not willing,
because he tends to put shit out, in plain sight. So it can't be like, oh, we did this in plain sight.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. They do a lot of that plain sight bullshit. And then
it can't be a crime if I say it before I do it.
Yeah, and then play it down. Yeah. I thought it was interesting, though, that if that is the case, I think it's interesting if that was a Freudian slip, is he like legitimately acknowledging this shit then?
Well, he has said that he would only acknowledge the election if it is truly a fair and legit election.
Which means that he wins and that's that.
Yeah, that's the only way.
And, so I've been getting a lot of texts and a lot of emails. Friends, listeners.
Friends, Romans, countrymen.
Yes, all of them. It's the countrymen.
Lend you their ear.
The countrymen, though, man, they're just nasty. And a lot of people are concerned because they keep seeing these polls showing that while it looks like Kamala will win the popular vote, it looks like Trump will win. Like the newest one was a 93% chance, I think it was, that Trump was going to win the Electoral College. Now,
do you know how to castrate a countryman?
How do you castrate a countryman?
Mm-hmm. You kick a sister in the teeth.
Ah!
Anyway. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I guess my question is, do you think... So my response has been pretty consistent, which is when asked for my analysis of the polls, I inevitably respond, the only thing I see is another reason not to trust the polls. I don't think the polls have been right for a very long time. I don't think they have a clue as to what they're doing. And while prior to Trump, they had the ability to maybe get within the margin of error every once in a while, they still were usually off. So my view on it is that
George is going to be way off.
I think George is going to be way off.
Yeah. From everything that I've seen, I do believe John Oliver last week tonight did a great expose concerning Georgia and their voting laws and the people in charge of it. And I don't think their returns are going to come back for probably a week.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a solid, well, let's put it this way. I think it'll be a solid 4 to 5 days before we get Georgia. Now, and
then it's always going to get contested. It's already set up for that.
Well, see, that's the thing is that realistically what has to happen is either candidate has to win the Electoral College without Georgia.
Yeah.
And it has to be by a margin that even if you got Georgia, you still wouldn't win, you know. And I'm calling it, all right? I don't even know how the math works out, okay? Mm-hmm. But I think it's going to be 308 electoral votes for Kamala. And again, I hope so. There's nothing behind that whatsoever. That is just a gut feeling. There's no research behind that. I don't know how those numbers come to be, but every time I'm talking about
interesting, they need to have cameras on each candidate the entire day and night.
Oh, that would be interesting.
48 hours.
I think that'd be great.
Except for when they go to the bathroom. Just because it would be so interesting to see Trump's reaction either way.
Yeah, I would love to see how he reacts as the polls.
Every 5 feet, place a ketchup bottle.
So what happens, in your opinion? Let's go with Trump wins the Electoral College, but loses the popular vote. What do you think happens?
He'll gloat either way. I still think there's going to be violence. The right. Because I think they'll feel vindicated and
so you actually think that no matter what, it's going to be violence coming from the right?
I really do.
Even if they win? Even if
they win.
Now, why would they do it if they win?
Because they're sore winners.
So what?
They're sore winners.
Sore winners?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a whole lot of "I told you so" and get into people's faces.
I think that I think that it will become very much like after you noticed during and specifically after COVID,
like the movie Civil War. What kind of American are you? Who did you vote for?
Yeah, I could see.
Did you vote? Who did you vote for?
I could see that,
and I could see that happening on whoever wins. I think if Kamala wins, there's going to be even more outrage.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, you're going to have half the fucking country like, oh, how did that happen? They must have stole it. But when you take it out, I guess my thing is there doesn't seem to be any circumstance in which some level of political violence does not exist from either side. Mm-hmm. And that's what concerns me. Now, the level of that, whether that's just civil unrest and protests without violence, that seems to be more likely if Trump wins. I think you'll see a lot of civil unrest. I think you'll see a lot of protesting. I think you'll see a lot of Democrats out on the streets. But they're not as quick to reach for a weapon.
Correct.
And I think at this point, because Trump, and I'm saying this specifically because Trump lost in 2020, I think that the taste for violence is on the tip of all of MAGA's tongue. And I think that it's going to be a very, very cold winter. And I think that it's going to be a very violent winter. And I hate to say that because it sounds like we're stoking that flame. But the reason I wanted to have this conversation is because I wanted to bring attention to it ahead of time in an effort to tell Republicans and Democrats, mm-hmm. Bring the temperature down. Bring it down a notch. This doesn't have to be this way. They're still your neighbors. You know, before they were Trump supporters, they were good people. They're still good people. Misguided, maybe, but still good people. That's not the person that you want to have a standoff with. You know what I mean? You don't want to break out your pea shooters and be threatening each other. And most importantly,
I come from the neighborhood of if you didn't like the results, get more people to vote.
Well, yeah, but see, that goes against the Republican theory. Yeah. The Republican theory as a party is the less people that vote, the more likely they are to win. So and this goes back way back. This goes back to like Nixon.
Yeah.
Suppress the vote, Republicans win. Yeah. Suppress the vote, Republicans win. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I do know that this almost seems to be like the quiet before the storm, the calm before the storm. And I think it's going to be that for the next 2-3 weeks. But I honestly believe that the Saturday after the election, what is that? November 8th or whatever? It would be November 9th. I think on the 8th, 9th, and 10th, that's when we'll know. So what will happen is somewhere along that line, the race will get called. And depending on what day it gets called, will determine how amped up any violent behavior is. If it's a Friday night or a Saturday, forget it. It's all over. If it's a Sunday that it's announced, I got to work tomorrow. So maybe we're not going to go out with the pitchfork.
I will say right now that in the swing states, it's showing that Trump is ahead in 3 and Harris is ahead in 4.
Well, I think Michigan's going to be, everyone's talking about Pennsylvania. I don't think Pennsylvania is going to be really the issue. I think it's going to be one of the issues, but I don't think it's going to be the main one. I think Michigan is going to be the linchpin state on that because it's so close here. It's so fucking close. And while we have, Detroit in the suburbs and that, there's so much rural areas in Michigan. There's far more rural than there is, city and developed or suburbs.
And people pay attention for our podcasts in November because we will be on air live with whiteboards and graphs and
charts,
unbuttoned white shirts with
definitely
coffee stains.
And I'm going to have a tie that's like loose, but not undone and pulled over to the left just a little bit, just so it looks like I've really been fighting for my ability to not have this tie tied.
Steve will be in the studio with the whiteboards. I will be out on the streets hitting the pizzerias, the Coney Island.
And the donut shops, because the donut shops know. They know who's going to win. Actually, it'd be kind of cool if we did do that. If we did some live interviews or recorded and then played them. All right, enough of politics. It's too much, and we don't know what's going to happen. But I do know that Trump is not looking good lately, and I don't know whose idea it was to put him in a McDonald's drive-through and working the fry machine. Some of these idiots, they're buying into it. They're like, he's the best. He's the man of the people. He's the GOAT. You can't be the GOAT. You can't be the man of the people if it's all staged. You can't.
Yeah.
And that is clearly staged. I don't care what anyone says. That is all staged. So let's go to back to childhood memories.
Sorry, that was a very weak dun dun dun. I'm the sound effects machine today.
Yeah, well, we're working on that, and listeners can donate if they want to, so that we can get you a sound. Let me check my
computer for the latest polls. Boop beep boop 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 beep boop.
Yeah, we need all of those. We need
That was not me. That was my computer.
Yes,
it literally made that noise.
All right, so this is not necessarily a happy childhood memory, but it's not necessarily a bad one for me or for you.
Yes.
Aside from the restrictions that it incurred on our movement, specifically during Halloween. So in 76 and 77,
you could count this as our true crime episode.
Oh boy, let's go true crime. Let's see if we can get those true crime numbers. Those podcasts get fucking numbers. All right, so here's our true crime.
I do want to do some true crime though, just because I'm always fascinated by it.
See, I get it. Some of them I am, but like there's people out there that are like, they'll just true crime all day long. And I'm like, dude, you need to figure out your life. You're making some bad decisions.
Yeah, I'm more into the unsolved true crime.
Yeah, I do appreciate the mysteries. All right. And this is definitely a mystery.
Sometimes I like to watch Agatha Christie, but skip the last 10 minutes.
Sometimes I like to watch Agatha Christie with Jergens and tissue.
some, some napkins.
Who knew? Who knew? Who knew you could jerk off to Agatha Christie? I knew.
You.
So going back to our childhood,
Yes.
we always loved Halloween, not just because of dressing up, not just because of the candy, but because we always enjoyed kind of that, that it's like a roller coaster. You know you're going to be scared, but you know you're safe. You know what I mean? So like we always dug it from that point of view.
Well, that's the appeal of horror movies. They're scary, but you know that you're safe.
Right. So you're getting that dopamine, you're getting that thrill, you're getting that adrenaline rush, but you know that all circumstances are going to work out in your favor.
Correct.
But this was not the case in 76 and 77.
No.
Because in 76 and 77, if you lived in the Detroit metro area, you were finally in a situation where it wasn't as safe as you thought. And so they called them, what was it? The Michigan Snow Killings was one of the names?
That was one of the names, the Michigan Babysitter Killer.
Right. That was another one. And then
broader term, it was the Oakland County Child Killer.
Right. And that's the one that actually stuck the most, at least in the long term, was the Oakland County Child Killer. And so the thing that's interesting about this, and we could absolutely dive into it like every other podcast has, where we talk about all the details of it.
Other podcasts have done Oakland County Child Killer?
Oh, there's a ton of them.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, there's a ton of them.
Interesting. Now my information seems a little...
No. The reason why I want your information on this is twofold. One, you have oddly got way more memory of this than I do. I have a way different perspective of this than you do. And the reason is because at that point you were like not even 2 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
In fact,
I'm curious about the perspective because, this is obviously something horrible. And you were saying that you were hoping it would continue. Is that what I'm getting?
No. I'm not saying it. What kind of sick fuck you think I am?
I just wanted people send you angry emails.
So this went on for, what was it, like 13 months?
About that.
But no one knew that it had stopped. So that's the thing. That's the thing.
Because it's unsolved.
All right. So now let me back up a little bit because I want to explain to the listeners how we're going to approach this. All right. You're going to be the person that gives me the facts. I'm going to be the idiot that doesn't remember any of this shit because most of it I did not remember. I have done a deep dive in the last 48 hours on this, and the one thing that has surprised me was how many times certain things jogged my memory in a way that I never thought could have been jogged that way. So they're like little bits and pieces, like, whether they were headlines or whether I saw, like the newscast on it and whatever.
I actually saw footage where it had distant footage, live footage, and you could unfortunately see one of the bodies.
And was that on I-75? Second victim?
I don't remember which.
Okay.
But it could have been.
So the reason why I want to approach this in a little different way than most other podcasts have approached this is because this was more personal for us in the sense of how it affected our actual daily lives. Now, you've got all the facts on this. And the one thing that I was really amazed by was how many players were involved in this and how it had stretched not just Oakland County. I mean, you're talking Cass Corridor in Wayne County. You're talking all the way up to Traverse City, way up north. Correct. So you know,
infamous Fox Island.
Fox Island, yeah, which was Epstein Island before Epstein Island. So it's
I don't want to smudge Fox Island with Epstein's name, but it had to do with Brother Paul's Children's Mission out on Fox Island.
Yeah.
Through a church.
Yeah.
I want to point that out. Through a church.
Isn't it odd? There's always whenever it's pedophilia, there's either some sort of religious figure, whether that's a priest or a pastor. There's always fucking some
robed figure with a boner,
some Cub Scout leader or something. You know what I mean? Like some Boy Scout disgruntled. It's always fucked up shit like that. And it just kills me because these poor fucking kids deal with the consequences of these demented fucking adults. Anyway.
So in
let
Oakland,
let me just back up for a second, because like I said, I think it's important for people to understand the perspective here. This is such a complex story with so many different participants.
Yeah, we could make this a 4-parter. We probably would not cover everything.
Easily could be a 4-parter and not even probably touch the surface of it. And with that being said, we're going to jam this all into the next 15, 20 minutes. But the reason is not so much that I want to bring attention to the case, because the case itself and all the evidence that has been made public is out there. People can absolutely dig into this and deep dive it on their own and go for the information that they're looking for. That's not necessarily what I want to try to do. What I want to try to do is add the human factor to this. You had 4 victims in the course of 13 months. You had two
Let me correct you on that.
Oh, okay.
There are 4 known victims,
Fair
3
enough.
suspected murderers, and 4 possible other murders.
Well, the possibles, from my understanding, don't fall into necessarily line with the MO
Correct.
of the original 4, or the 4 that we attribute.
Yes.
But even within those 4, there's the variable of 2 boys, 2 girls. And the 2 girls were not sexually abused, at least according to the coroner.
Correct.
And
the 2 boys were.
The 2 boys were. But here's the other little weird thing in this. The one girl, the second victim, was shot in the face with a 12 gauge.
The second girl, yes. Or first girl.
Well, the second victim, I meant. Second victim, first girl.
Second victim.
And apparently that happened on site, which was on the side of I-75.
Yeah. I'll let me get to that. Let me fill in the blanks.
Okay.
You had Mark Stebbins, age 12, from Ferndale. He did not return home from an American Legion hall his mother was working at on February 15th, 1976. His body was found 4 days later wearing the same clothes he was last seen in, lying on a pile of wood and dirt in the parking lot of a local building in Southfield. He had been strangled and sexually abused with a foreign object, had 2 lacerations behind the left ear, the rear of the head. Rope marks were evident on both of his wrists and ankles, indicating that he'd been bound during his captivity. What's interesting about what happened with Mark Stebbins was that a man with a dog was walking through the area at 9:30 a.m., saw nothing. Then a man who left his office, I'll leave out his name because his name is out there. He left his office because Mark Stebbins was found in the parking lot of this office building. The man left his office at 11:45 a.m. for lunch and found the body. In that span of 2 hours, the body was placed for display. In a matter of 2 hours.
See, and that's the thing. This is like...
It wasn't an area where there's nobody around. At any moment, someone could have seen this guy, or people, whoever did this, but they weren't.
And he was definitely staged. Like, the way the body was laid out was staged.
And that's going to be a common theme here.
Right.
Jill Robinson, 12, of Royal Oak, left her home on December 2nd, 1976, following an argument with her mother over dinner prep. The following day, her bicycle was found outside a local hobby store before her body was found alongside I-75 in Troy, within view of the Troy police station. On the morning of December 26th, she had been shot in the face with a 12-gauge shotgun close range, right there, and her body was fully clothed and wearing the backpack that she had taken with her when she left home. An autopsy revealed that Robinson had been fed and cared for at least 3 days before she was killed. Then you had Christine Marie Mihalik. I'm sorry if I'm butchering any names.
Is it Malik or Mahalik?
Mahalik. 10 years old of Berkeley. The reported missing January 2nd, 1977, after she failed to return home from a 7-Eleven store at 12 Mile and Oakshire. I'm not sure if you know where that is. I know exactly where.
It's in Berkeley, isn't it? Is that Berkeley or Clawson?
It is neither. It's technically Franklin Village.
Okay. All right. So it's on the west side of Clawson.
We're right by Green Lantern Pizza.
Sorry, yeah, all right.
Lantern.
Now I know exactly where you're talking now.
Her friends and family raised $17,000 in case a ransom came in, which never came. A mail carrier found her fully clothed body 19 days later on the side of a rural road in Franklin Village. She had been smothered to death less than 24 hours earlier, and her body lay within view of all the homes nearby. Her legs were pressed up into her chest as if she'd been carried like that and placed for display. Now, at this time, after the third one, is truly when Oakland County went into panic mode. Like, they realized at this point,
they were just starting.
What's going on?
Yeah, they were just starting to piece together they could be all related, or that they they weren't certain of it, obviously, in the beginning, because the first one versus the second one were completely different in the sense of the introduction of a shotgun and the fact that it was a girl instead of a boy, and that there was no sexual abuse. So It was absolutely a curveball that those two could even be conceived to have been done by the same person.
And then there was Timothy King, age 11, who left his home in Birmingham, went to a pharmacy the evening of March 16th, 1977, after he failed to return home. An intensive search covering the entire Detroit metro area was conducted. His body, though, was found the evening of March 22nd by two teenagers in a shallow ditch alongside Gill Road in Livonia. He had been sexually assaulted with a foreign object, common thing here, suffocated approximately 6 hours earlier. Now, his family and friends and the police actually begged on TV for whoever had him to please treat him like he was your little brother, to return him home. They actually pleaded this on TV.
Not only did they do that, but they also said that as soon as you get home, you can have your favorite meal, which was Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yes, correct. Unfortunately, autopsy results revealed that King had in fact eaten his favorite food, Kentucky Fried Chicken, shortly before his death, and that he was cleaned and groomed prior to his suffocation.
Well, they said it was fried chicken, but chances are it was Kentucky Fried Chicken. We don't know for a fact. It could have been fucking Church's, but I'm guessing he got his Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, it was probably Kentucky Fried Chicken, unfortunately.
So the thing that I find interesting about all this, right? This all happens within the course of 13 months.
Yes.
It becomes more and more aggressive in the time frame. However, what also happens is it seems like specifically with the girls, the amount of time that they were kept was longer than it was for the boys, at least the first boy. And what ended up happening was eventually a task force was put together. And due to that task force, multiple aspects of pedophile rings in the area were dismantled. Yes. So you had apparently the Cass Corridor issue regarding pedophilia was way worse than anyone thought and way far off the hook. But you also had this going international because they were selling these things. They were selling these videos and these pictures internationally.
Yes.
They were also trying to sell these children internationally. So when it was a Cass Corridor kid, which would have been, inner city youth, most likely black, they were trying to sell these young boys. And they actually they would have they would have these poor kids who clearly were like struggling for food and stuff like that. And they would offer them like a few bites of food for sexual favors. So that went on. And then beyond that, they would even go to some of the mothers who were having financial troubles, and they would pay bills in exchange for time with the children, which is just so fucking disturbing to me beyond belief. I mean, that's a whole new level of, I mean, for as vile as they are, how fucking horrible are you as a mother or a father that would allow that?
Are you familiar with who owned Fox Island?
I know the name, but give it to me.
Well, the proprietor of the island, one Francis Sheldon.
You're right, Sheldon.
Yes, he owned the island and had help from Dyer Grossman, Adam Starchild, which that's quite a name, and Gerald Richards.
Richards was Richards the one that went and did 10 years?
I think so. He was either the one that did 10 years or the one that quote unquote killed himself.
Well, no, name those names again, because I'll be able to tell you. I'm pretty sure Gerald was the one that went to jail for 10 years. What were the other two names?
Yeah, he did. Richards, school teacher, served a term for child pornography, was arrested again on child porn charges in 88 before killing himself in 98.
Okay.
But the name's Francis Sheldon. He actually fled the United States to the Netherlands.
Right.
In 76.
And then
passed away in 96.
Well, that's what we were told, was that he passed away in 96. But there was some sort of a search or whatever done by the families, because the families are still working on this. Okay, so this was 76, 77, and these families are still trying to find answers to this case, which is the part of the
released a DVD just a couple of years ago, just to state their case. They're unhappy with how Oakland County wasn't exactly clear with them about the investigation, because clearly, obviously, they want it to be resolved, and they were critical of Oakland County and Oakland County's reluctance to branch out in talks with Wayne.
Wasn't it in 2010 that lawsuit actually took some bites out of Oakland County?
Yes, it did.
What do you have that handy? What the result was?
I don't think it's been resolved.
Okay, but I don't know about that. I'm not. That's the one we're gonna have to double check on. Anyways, the reason why I wanted to bring this up.
Beep beep boop 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 beep boop.
And there
Sorry,
he goes.
I was Googling.
The reason why I wanted to bring this up was, unlike you wanted to bring it up from the point of view of this was a scary thing that was always haunting us around Halloween. And I think that there's always something like that, right? There's always something out there that's like in your neighborhood or in your community that is a reminder year after year. And that's what this was for us. So year after year.
Yes.
And like I said, I was about 6, 7 years old when it happened. You weren't even a year old, but you actually suffered more from this than I did, because as I got older, mom and dad felt more comfortable with me going out with my friends for Halloween because we were in a big group and stuff like that, or they knew that a parent would be trailing at some point. You didn't have that probably until what? You were 10, 11?
Yeah, probably about that age. They were very,
which is
we grew up
odd.
in a house that was, we got to check the candy for needles, razor blades.
Right.
It was just, I think, their excuse to get the baby Ruth.
Yeah, well, it's definitely dad's excuse to get the baby Ruth. But
because as much of an urban legend that is, there's only one case of that ever actually happening, and it was the child's father who did it.
Yeah, I've heard that.
For the record.
And
for the record.
Turns out kid was a bit of a prick and probably deserved it. But the reason why I wanted
for babysitting, if you want to call 1-800-PICKLE-ME.
The reason why I wanted to talk about this, though, from our perspective as kids, is because twofold. One, hopefully to bring a little bit of light to this again. And if there's anyone out there that has any tips or has any knowledge or has any idea, so that these poor families can get some sort of closure, that's the first reason. The second reason is that this is always spoken about in terms of the case, but it's not really spoken about in terms of how it affected the public and specifically families that had children that were young that grew up in that area. Now, we grew up in Macomb County instead of Oakland County, but our cousin was in Oakland County, and we literally were 10, 15 minutes away from him. So we were on that kind of border of Macomb and Oakland County, and specifically where those things were happening when you're talking about Royal Oak, when you're talking about, Franklin, when you're talking about all those areas where these kids were taken from, not fucking far from where we grew up at all. Not far at all. And definitely the vast majority of them would not have been more than a 30-minute ride, in a car, in traffic, under the worst circumstances.
I will say that there was a convicted child sex offender, Arch Edward Sloan, who is currently in prison. He failed a polygraph test.
Right. And he went down for 17.
Interviewed.
He went down for 17 charges, right? That's the guy?
I think so.
So not only did he go down for those 17 charges, right, but he was offered a sweet deal where basically they said, you help us figure this shit out, and you can pick any prison you want to be in, which was never heard of. And they said that they would make it clear that you were in for bad checks instead of pedophilia. Now, anyone given that deal, knowing what happens to pedophiles, specifically with 17 charges against them, that's a sweet deal. That's the deal you take. Do whatever you can to help, do whatever you have to, but end up in a prison of your choice where everyone thinks you're there for checks so that you don't get killed by inmates. But he refused the deal.
Yeah, he also, though, failed 2 polygraphs in 2010 and 2012 relating to it. His car was gone over by the Oakland County Child Killer Task Force, and while they got DNA samples, they did not match Sloan. But it implicates that he knew someone who took his car, or he lent his car to.
Which gets me to
involved.
And again, not to get too deep into the weeds as far as all of the players, but there was a 26, 27-year-old kid whose father was a high up executive at GM. He kept getting bailed out, and then he ended up committing suicide. But the way that he did that with a shotgun versus where he got shot versus where the gun landed, none of that shit made sense. So not to get too deep.
On top of that, I forgive me because I do get into the weeds. There was a picture that he had drawn that looked a lot like
the
Stimmons,
the first boy,
that he drew that was on his wall.
But none of that makes sense. None of that makes sense.
Yeah, it was really. I feel like it was a red herring.
I think it was absolutely a red herring. I think that guy was the fall guy, and they liked him because they knew that he came from money and that he was going to be able to provide them with children. I think he was absolutely part of the ring. Okay, I don't think that there's any question in my mind that even he admitted that he was a pedophile. Like, none of that is necessarily up for debate, but I don't think he was the big dog. I think that this all goes up way, way higher. And I know that sounds very conspiratorial, but the fact of the matter is that none of, even where the cross-section of the Cass Corridor and the Oakland County Child Killer kind of come together as far as like who the people are, who the participants are, none of it makes sense from a ringleader. Right? Like, these were all kind of low level and bumbling at best criminals.
I get the feeling, based on the 4 known murders, that there was more than one person, if lack of a better term, disposing.
Now, I have a theory.
I say that because the 2 boys were sexually assaulted. The 2 girls were not. But the second one, where she was shot in the face in front of, the Troy police station, that sounds to me kind of like a rage.
Actually, I think, what I think it was? I think he thought he had strangled her. And
that could be.
I think that either she was not dead and the shock of the cold of the snow brought her back or woke her up, or the difference in temperature when she was put in the snow expelled whatever air was left in her lungs.
That could be.
You know what I mean? I think that those make more sense. I think it's probably more a case of he thought he had killed her, he thought he had strangled her, or they, or whoever. And then
it just screams that there was more than one person.
I don't know that it does. I mean, I don't know that it does as far as the murders go. But I tend to believe that it probably was at least two people. And one of them may not have even known necessarily that they were a part of it. I think that there was a lot of, well, first and foremost, I think this goes to money. I think that the higher up you go in this, and again, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist here, because this falls right in line with the MAGA, Pizzagate bullshit. And I don't think that any of that's related here. Okay. I honestly don't think any of that's related. I think that what this is you had a group of people that could have been worldwide. Okay. And just because they're worldwide doesn't mean there's a ton of them. There could have been 6 or 7 of them, 12 of them, but they all had enough money and they wanted a certain quality of product, as they would put it. You know what I mean?
I tend to think that this was a group of people, and 1 or 2 people were in charge of, probably the guy who was found suicided may have been in charge of disposing, and the gunshot was because, as you said, she wasn't actually dead. But I think they were probably worried about him talking.
Yeah.
And offed him. And they got, obviously the one fellow got out of Dodge, went to Europe.
Right.
So I think this was definitely a ring. They have names. They just don't have an actual killer.
So what I'd like,
because the second one just screams sloppy.
Right. It does. Like all of the protocols were followed up until something didn't happen correctly. And that's why I say I think that one.
I don't want to sound dismissive or anything, but the pictures of Jill and Christine, from an immediate standpoint, they kind of had boyish haircuts.
I haven't seen the pictures, or I've seen pictures, okay? But I don't know if those pictures are necessarily representative of that moment in their life. So I don't want to say.
I'm just saying.
I'm not. Well, it could have been still opportunity, though, don't you think? Like, well, from a distance.
Well, opportunity and possibly thinking they're a different gender.
Well, yeah, but hold on a second. If you thought that you could use them to entrap boys, wouldn't you do that? Like, I think that I
don't know.
I think it could have been one of the circumstances where they saw it as a potential opportunity to not only either entrap boys, but also sell them off or sell pictures. Because you got to remember too, that even though these guys may not have been into girls, there are plenty of pedophiles that are, and it's not like they didn't have their 8mm cameras. You know what I mean? So like, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for them to be like, well, this isn't what we're into, but if we can sell it and make money off of it or use it in trade for our benefit, great, let's do that.
What I'd be interested in is if they could take a ground penetrating radar and cover that island. They have not done that as far as I know.
Oh,
but they should.
That'd be amazing. And now they can do it with drones.
Yes.
So they could do it very economically, I would think, because it's a very small island.
Yeah, it's about the size of, well, so is it going to make sense to most people outside of Michigan? It's about the size of Mackinac Island.
Right.
Probably a little bit smaller. It's the smaller of the two. South Fox is larger, but they both have airstrips on them. Somebody from the DNR is in charge of the North Fox Island landing strip.
Great.
How would you love to have that job?
No, thank you. No fucking thank you.
There are structures still on the island. I know this. Somebody had gotten onto the island because you're not supposed to go there. But they did, and there are still cabins on this island that was
Why
used
aren't you
for,
supposed to go there? Is it still owned by that family?
as far as I know, it is owned by the state of Michigan. Someone did buy South Fox Island, I do believe, but sold it back to the state of Michigan. But I could run a search to see if anyone
we
owns
should
either. But
yeah.
I won't.
I mean, maybe we can do a little bit of follow up on that one for the next episode. But the thing that I want to kind of swing back around to is the fact that I was, like I said, I was 6 or 7 years old. You were 1 coming on to 2 years old, and all that happened, and it affected us for so many years after. And my curiosity is, how did it affect you? Because it didn't affect me in the same way. You obviously had much more.
I was basically clueless. I always think people are overreacting at that age.
I know.
I just wanted to dress up and have fun on Halloween.
No. I get that, but the market made as far as like how specifically, because I know Mom was the real nut on that one.
Interesting to note, there are at least 4 known shipwrecks off of North Fox. People free dive and go scuba diving from there into the waters. There is no cell service on the island.
Oh.
There is no harbor. So if you come in, you have to anchor out and get to the island, a small boat. It's very shallow and rocky here on the island, so be careful if you're stupid enough to go out there. But the island, there is a warning on it, which is be aware of the spiders and snakes on the island. So yeah.
What kind of fucking snakes are on the island? Fucking Michigan doesn't have poisonous snake. I'm so scary.
But there's pictures of some of the spiders and stuff on there.
Okay.
I feel like they're giving you warnings like, stay off this island for now, because there's spiders.
Oh my God. So anyways, for me, it was one of those things.
It actually says spiders, snakes, and bugs.
No.
There's bugs?
No.
Oh, nature?
You mean it? Really? Outside? I guess for me, it was one of those things where it was like, I always knew it was in the background because we always had the houses that had safe house signs. Mm-hmm. And that's where it made an impact for me, was more through school and, the stranger danger and the idea of all the warnings that we got in class. I didn't necessarily feel it at home as much. I think you felt it more at home because you were hearing those conversations between Mom and Dad at a little bit younger and more impressionable age than I was. And you were hearing them talk about the Oakland County Killer. And I remember hearing that too, but I was kind of like, whatever. We're in Macomb. Like, that's all I knew. I didn't realize that
it's Oakland's problem.
Yeah.
Like, across John R.
Yeah, I didn't realize how close we were to it, or how much of a possibility it could have been in our neighborhood. But I think
interesting to get Auntie and Uncle Joe's perspective.
Yeah,
they were right on the border.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. I do remember Mom having many conversations with Auntie about it over the phone. I do remember that. And that's my point, I guess, is that through this whole thing, yeah, it's easy to just turn it into a cold case. But I think if you're able to kind of think back to how it actually affected your life, and again, like the safe houses, the signs that would end up in windows that you knew that if you had stranger danger, you could run right to that house and they would let you in, no problem.
Sorry, I still find the idea silly of safe house signs. Just like, oh, this must be a safe house. I mean, look at these 2 upstanding guys. One's got gloves, and
the other one's got
knives on the fingers. It's cool.
Yeah, everything's good.
The other dude's super safe. He's got a hockey mask.
But that was a different fucking time. And I would be curious, and I don't know if any of our listeners know, do you know if the stranger danger safe house, thing, did that start because of that? Did that originate in Oakland County? Or is that something that had been done in other cities and then was implemented in Oakland County? And I want to say that I think it was created there.
No, a quick. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Beep, beep, boop, 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 boop. Sorry, my computer was a little slow. Stranger danger was first used in the 1960s, and the stranger danger initiatives began in the early 70s. So it was a thing before all of this. But
that was the thing.
Tagline that clever never goes. What is it? What?
I have
Clever
no idea.
never goes. What, to the bathroom?
Yeah. So I guess where I'm coming from is I want people to be aware of this story because it was, in general, just a horrific story and still an unsolved mystery. And hopefully bringing attention to it will help in some way. I don't know if it will, but hopefully.
I also want to say, just as a color commentary, I'm not really sure how effective stranger danger works. I scream it all the time at the store with the wife, and nobody ever comes to help.
No one comes to help you.
No. I still end up in the car ride home.
Oh, yeah. She still makes you get in. Well, like I said, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it is because it is a spooky story. And it's a spooky story from our childhood. And we specifically remember this because it became such a topic around Halloween for us through, you know, our parents being concerned. But beyond that, hopefully, you know, again, hopefully somebody out there can help out on this case. I'm sure that there are hotlines to call or whatever. If nothing else, take a few minutes and find some literature on it. Find a couple web pages. Go to, it was the Smiths that have a blog, I think. The first, huh? I think they do.
I hadn't heard that.
I think that they have a blog going on it. And he's getting up in age, you know, and he just wants to know what happened to his kid. He just wants to know what happened to his kid. That's all.
At the same time, I got to add in that having worked at some commercial haunted houses, I did at one point have friends pose as average ticket buyers, stand in line, go in with the group that they didn't know, and I snatched them and quote unquote murdered them. And they did not continue with the group. Got in a lot of trouble for that.
And that's the kind of fun trouble that we love at Elsie's Little Pickles. That's been another Pickle Pod, people.